Hello.
Hey there, Aisla. How are you today?
Doing well. I'm cold. Colorado is very cold.
You know what? Amsterdam is very cold right now, too. We've had cold. It doesn't usually freeze out, but it's been freezing the past few days. We had a slight increase today, so warmed up a little bit, but yeah, things are changing. And then we've got what? Massive snow hitting from Texas to Florida.
Yeah. It's definitely a new world. And I mean, I feel like a sign of growing up or aging is complaining about the weather no matter what it is. I
It
mean,
hurts the bones these days.
yeah, I either got to complain about the weather when it's hot or cold or complain about my health, I think, as I get every couple of years, you add something new on, right? So, in addition to the weather, you had
Yes.
a pretty neat thing happen in January. You were honored. Would you be willing to share with people about that who maybe
You
don't
know,
know?
I was, I'm really taken aback by it. I'm still kind of digesting from our sisters and brothers in the Italian Catholic community. I was given the award of the Bishop Iggy's Project Hope's Mother Teresa Humanitarian Award.
Hmm.
And this event was blessed by Pope Francis. And I was one of a number of people who received awards that day. And I'm still kind of digesting all of it,
Hmm.
receiving awards and humanitarian awards always, it feels good. And I greatly appreciate the fact that I'm appreciated. Mother Teresa, for me, that's a whole other level. Yeah. Yeah. As a matter of fact, it was in the Italian newspaper. It's the Italian American newspaper in Italian and in English. And then the gift of the night was my mother, who is turning 99 in March. She was asked to sing, and she hit it out of the park. She really did.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's
So, and
neat.
they have such an appreciation for elders. But it was a wonderful and a very humbling gathering. Yes.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And we did send it out in our email. So if you are, we don't send a lot of emails, but if you're interested in getting little updates, I certainly would love to send them to you. So you can just go to the website and sign up there. And another update, we're not going to get into all of the things that are coming up because we actually have a pretty full show about Ukraine and green rebuilding. It's quite
Right.
interesting.
Right.
But we did want to have I did want to have you talk a little bit about the event you're sponsoring in March, or the Her Many Voices is sponsoring in March.
Yes, Her Many Voices is sponsoring, and we just confirmed this, made it official just a couple hours ago. The Cannabis Embassy Initiative is putting together their centenaria of cannabis prohibition gathering at the UN in Vienna. And that's going to be March 10th through the 14th. So for those of you who are not familiar with the Cannabis Embassy folks, they are out there educating people left and right on this plant medicine. And so we will have an opportunity to be in front of, there'll be 2,000 delegates who will be attending this event at the UN. So we will have an opportunity for people to come and get a little bit of an education. And we really do need to do this in these kind of circles, right?
Yeah.
Hemp, the cannabis plant in general, is really truly addressing a tremendous amount of the sustainability goals that are out there, that the UN put out there. And so we need to have people who are educated, who are making the decisions around this plant, who have actual education on what this plant is. As opposed to the archaic beliefs of, it's the devil's seed and it was made illegal, but it was truly made illegal because of basically racist and control reasons. So fast forward, it's 100 years since it was put in the Commission on Narcotic Drugs. They made it like an opioid thing, right? That was in 1925. So here we are, fast forward 100 years, and this event is happening. And hopefully people will educate themselves before they go out into their countries and start talking about this plant.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's so neat. And well, so thank you so much. And I'm really delighted to introduce Maren and Sergyi talking a little bit about their experience in Ukraine and the green rebuilding process before you'll see a video talking about Ukraine and the green rebuilding process, a documentary that Maren created a couple of years ago.
Right. And some of Maren's work, my understanding, some of Maren's work is going to be at the UN as well.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hello,
All right.
in the many time zones of our audience. My name is Maren Krings. I'm a German climate impact storyteller with a set passion to explore and share man-made solutions to combat climate change and promote social and climate justice. Most recently, I have been on the move in Iceland, India, and Pakistan. Returning from my global fieldwork and research, I bring back stories and insights captured through photography, filmmaking, and writing. This podcast is a joint format between Her Many Voices Foundation and myself to share these insights with you, our respected audience. Today, my guest is Sergyi Kovalenkov. I would like to welcome Sergyi to the screen here. Hello, Sergyi.
Good day, Maren. Thank you for having me.
Lovely to have you here. Let me give our guest a little introduction to you. Sergyi Kovalenkov, a Ukrainian home builder with over 14 years of experience in the industry of hemp eco-buildings. In 2015, he founded Hempire UA to create an extremely light and carbon-negative hemp-lime insulation mix called the Fifth Element. After receiving numerous awards and completing many building projects worldwide, he founded Hempire USA in 2018. Since the full-scale Russian invasion in 2022, Sergyi started to help in rebuilding his own country using his experience and resources under his NGO named Hemp Ukraine Recover. His vast experience and knowledge in the field of energy efficiency and green building has brought him invitations to speak at numerous international green tech, environmental, and hemp conferences. He is also one of the founders of the US Building Association. With Hempire, he's focusing on helping companies around the world to set up hemp processing and manufacturing facilities to speed up the transition of construction industry towards a more sustainable products and more healthy way of living. In our conversation today, we will talk about sourcing materials and building hemp homes during the war. Just for a general framing for our audience. Today is January 22nd of 2025. The Ukrainian people are experiencing their 1064th day of war. Personally, my thoughts are going out to all of my Ukrainian friends who have helped me during the production of the film and who are relentlessly fighting for their country and their survival. Hanna, Sveta, Sergyi, that's you, and also Sergyi and his entire family in Kiev, Yuri, Oleg, and Nina with her children. I hope you're all coping physically and mentally and are in warm homes. The hardships and losses, the human suffering and the destruction within the country is beyond imagination. Myself, I went to Ukraine in August of 2023 to see, document, and understand better how the war impacts people's lives, as well as the environment. So far, I have not found an accurate footprint calculation of the holistic impacts of war on the planet and in regards to our planetary overshoots. Specific calculations have been made, addressing radioactive contamination after the use of armor-piercing shells containing depleted uranium. However, I am missing the conversation about the contamination deriving from bombed infrastructure. Millions of private homes, neighborhoods consisting of high-rise apartment blocks, bridges, roads, and more have been destroyed during the war and left behind huge amounts of waste. Some of it applies as toxic waste that spreads throughout the environment as particles of plastic, polystyrene, and styrofoam bowls. Others, such as cement, glass, and steel materials used in mixed manners, cannot be recycled on site and thus end up in open waste dumps. It's no secret that the building industry is one of our largest emitters of CO2, as well as one of our dirtiest industries worldwide. In my book, H is for Hemp, I elaborate on many ways that the hemp building materials could help us turn this industry from an emitter to a carbon capturer. While asking this question at home builders, architects, and public institutions, I had not considered the huge amount of rebuilding that has to be done after wars. And also, let me add, after natural disasters. Sergey, before we launch into the official questions of the podcast, can you give us a little account of how people are in Ukraine at the moment?
Well, they are mentally exhausted. You know, I cannot describe to people who have never experienced war what it's like, to run to the bomb shelters at 3 o'clock in the morning. And, it can be happening, days, weeks, it can be happening throughout, the entire day. For example, when the siren goes off for hours, and then kids have to go to school the next morning. People have to get back to their normal life and make a living. It's definitely devastating. And it's not just been 3 years of war. It's been, more than 10 years. It really started in 2014. So 10 years of terror. Some people have experienced it firsthand, for the entire 10 years, some, just for 3. But it's a detrimental situation economically, psychologically, mentally. It's a disastrous situation. People are exhausted. They need a break. That's as simple as that to describe it.
Thank you, Sergey, for giving us this update and definitely recalling to all of us people, like myself, how beautiful we have it, how peacefully peace can be, and what attributes that brings with it. And let's move into the official topic, which is more on the building, but let's all please keep in mind that we're talking about people's lives and people's well-being in this podcast mostly. So Sergey, how would you rate that hemp building materials can be most successfully be used in this rebuilding process in Ukraine in an ecological way that also would counteract the immense environmental footprint that the war has so far created?
Well, I think it's one of the obvious solutions to rebuild in Ukraine, because when you are receiving a rocket in your house, we have situations where some old women, some old grandmother gets her house partially destroyed, and there is a hole literally in the house. How can you rebuild that part of the wall with the modern traditional materials that are currently exist on the construction market? I don't understand how can you fill it up with the block and the rock wall in that particular, to fill up the hole, because there are different programs that currently exist, which I'm not really, I don't see how effective they are on helping out people in need. But what this material does, hemp-lime in particular, we can fill up any hole, any void in the wall, in the roof. It's a quite versatile material. For me, it's a no-brainer to use local bio-based materials, especially that we have been doing it for 10 years, and I've been doing it for the last 15 years almost. For me, it's a no-brainer that this technology has a huge future and will play a major role in reconstruction of Ukraine after the war stops.
Sergey, I want to ask for our audience, because I have heard you in many direct conversations that we've had, but also in interviews that I've heard with you. You actually do not use the word that's most, or used to be most common in the hemp industry, which was always hempcrete. You actually focus on the word hemp-lime. Please give us a little enlightenment why you do that.
Well, it's been it's been a steady process of welcoming this material into the construction world, but we know that this industry is one of the most it's like an old dinosaur, let's put it this way. It's really hard. It's an archaic industry that is taking forever to switch towards new bio-based materials. So whenever you say the term hempcrete, people, they have a direct analogy with concrete, even though this material is an insulation material, even though with hemp lime you can build the blocks. But hempcrete, that ending of the word, will give you an analogy of concrete, and then architects would ask me forever and ever, and even now we're still receiving these requests. Can you please compare concrete to hempcrete? And I say, no, we got to get away from that term hempcrete. Yeah, I also been using that term from the beginning, but now the scientific proper way to say it, it's hemp-lime. There is nothing crete in it anymore. It's a hemp-lime insulation. Yes, you can make non-structural blocks. You can make structural blocks now with this, but now we're only using it hemp-lime, and we're trying to kind of integrate that term, and that's what we see in the scientific world. So we're getting away from the analogy with concrete. It has nothing to do with load-bearing materials like concrete.
Yeah, I like that. It's also alluding a bit to the entire hemp industry, which obviously has much more to cover than just building materials. That were all sort of, it all started with 1.0 in the rediscovery, where we still had to tell people that not any material from textiles to paper to building material from hemp would get you high. Thank God we're past this by now, almost. Yes, the question comes up every now and then. Yeah, I see you smiling. I see myself smiling. Yes, that still does happen. But I think we definitely moved into the 2.0 phase now, where the conversation is a bit more educated and people are aware that hemp is a natural material that's being used widely in industries. And it's quite nice to see this moving on, which actually alludes me to a next question within that particular conversation of rebuilding Ukraine. Let's have a look at what's going on in other countries, also in Europe, the United States, because you just said load bearing. I find that very interesting, because so far I have at least observed myself oftentimes having to explain people that no, you cannot build a autobahn bridge or something with from hempcrete or hemp-lime, because it is not load-bearing. But I actually do have a couple of projects in mind right now that are working on, constructing like huge industrial facility halls. Like in France, there's Les Chanvres de l'Atlantique from Vincent Lartissen, who's a former professional surfer and who has completely dedicated his life to hemp and has a pretty big chanvrière in the south of France, where he now actually is building one of 2 gigasites for hemp building blocks. Except the difference with his gigasite to produce hemp building blocks is that these blocks are so massive that you will be building industrial halls with that, which actually means to a certain extent they are load bearing. I'm pretty sure you probably also have some interesting projects from globally that you have seen or come across that we could mention here as inspiration.
Well, this material, of course, widely used as an insulation material. Now that the blocks are being developed in France that are load bearing, we're talking about like low rise construction projects. We're not talking about a 25-story high residential tower yet.
No.
So we have to be careful with interpretation. So I still view it as an insulation material, right? So the blocks are showing up, and of course, getting away from the use of chopping down timber in order to build the bio-based material house. It's a great idea, but there are not that many companies that have achieved load bearing capacity. without lowering the thermal performance. You have to understand that the block has to be denser, it has to be stronger, so you need to include some different types of additives that would make it structurally sound. And you would probably have to find a way to install the rebars, steel rebars, and also you might have some voids and openings in those blocks. So they might work in one of the climate zones, might not work in the other climate zones. You cannot make them very thick in Latin America, this wall side of this material, or like Southeast Asia, where you might have almost 100% humidity for like months. So you have to be very careful with the terminology. But yeah, there are examples of load-bearing hemp-lime blocks projects around the world, and it's a trendy thing, and I hope it's going to continue, because a lot of companies right now doing a lot of secretive R&D, and they're developing their products, and it's great. Let them be secretive, but there are not that many secrets out there anyways, and they're trying to patent it, and they try to restrict others from using it. I'm a more of a fan of developing your products, but not restricting other companies using similar type of things. You can just keep the formula to yourself and just continue building without slowing down the progress of this amazing tech, which is emerging. So yeah, for that's right now one of the right now one of the projects that we are currently participating in is a stargazing center in the middle of Colorado desert, where there is going to be a round observatory with 20 villas, and they're all going to be built out of hemp. They're being constructed as we speak. I'm going to be there in February, and it's a beautiful, beautiful project. So we will see more different round shapes, like at this observatory is going to be a round shaped structure. This is what I like to see architects becoming brave about using this tech, because we can make structures of different shape and form, as you have seen before. So that's I'm just happy to see that different facilities are being built out around the world. In Europe especially, North America will be catching up very soon. There are good things happening in USA right now. So we're seeing a green revolution in the construction industry as well. And in order to speed it up, we need it's a collaborative effort. It's a collaborative effort. People need to be helping each other out. We're talking about the growers of hemp, processors, builders, architects. Of course, we need support from the governmental officials. We need support on many levels to make this material a global trend.
Definitely. And I love how you're actually putting that emphasis on, we need to have that international awareness to also come back to our local sources, because again, talking sustainability, it's not going to be sustainable if we have to carry the hemp bricks that will be made in France all over the world because it's the only company. That would be a pity, so to speak. And there is another giga factory actually in Portugal. It's called Canyamor, and it's run by Khalid Mansour and Elad Kaspin, who have been two incredible hemp advocates for a very long time. And on this part, I also want to share some brand new news, which really made me very happy. The building company, the hemp building company, Schönthaler from Italy, from South Tyrol, they have worked tirelessly at getting the DIN, what do you call that? The DIN standard for Germany since 3 years, and they just finally have managed to get that. And that means that hemp bricks now have an official label in Germany, which means that architects, home builders, all of these people that tentatively are relying on these official stamps that they need to get their materials with, there's one easy entryway now here. I'm saying here, I'm in Austria, but it's in Germany. So that's also really great news. Sergey, moving back on the ground to Ukraine, you got involved in a beautiful project in the west of Ukraine near Morshi. right after the war started, with your business partner on the ground. You two started, I'm saying that because you're both called Sergei, so that's always confusing to the audience. You two started to rebuild an old farm together with the NGO Go Friends. We will see that building later on in the film that I produced in August 23. But please give us an update of the state of the project. How has it developed? What's happening on the ground there? How did that project come along?
Well, it's coming along pretty okay, I would say. The reason is this, because this project has been initially being constructed through donations only. And the Go Friends NGO's head, Yevgeny, he has been tirelessly working on attracting more capital towards finishing this building up. But I can tell you that the plan is to receive first children for summer camp this summer.
Wow.
So
Wow.
this summer 2025 we will see first kids that has been suffering from the war, taking a break in this beautiful hemp building. I would say, without exaggeration, this is the largest hemp building structure, at least in the modern history of Ukraine. So
Wow.
it's all going to be built out of hemp, and all the walls are built out of hemp. And of course, the power of this project just showcasing you the importance of using local materials in your formulation. As I've mentioned before on many, many different podcasts, when we were developing a formulation, all the ingredients had to be 100% Ukrainian and 100% natural. So we stuck with these principles until today. And during the pandemic and during the war, we realized how important that decision was made without importing stuff somewhere. For example, they have these amazing types of lime in Italy, in France. We don't have those deposits at all. So we had to come up with our own formulation. And the importance of using the local materials is evident during the war times. So when we organized a workshop in the fall of 2022, we gathered the refugees, people that have lost their homes or just moved away from the eastern part of Ukraine towards west, and we taught them how to do it. We have donated our materials, we have donated our foreman, our mixer to them initially, and then they started to do it themselves with their own hands. So just that's the power of hemp-lime, where you educate people and then they can go on and rebuild their lives and get it back on track with the bio-based local materials. So this project is moving on well, not as fast as we wanted, but it's moving forward. And we are going to be using all kinds of resources, including Hemp Today, Kurt Trainer, who's been a great help of ours and a great friend of mine for many years. We're going to be trying to raise money through different types of sources, including his Hemp Today portal, and helping these people get in the new life, basically.
That's absolutely a lovely update, and I'm personally very, very happy to hear that, because I know we've had many conversations over the years between August 23 and now, where it was always a big question: where might and will the Soul Center develop into and towards, because it was not always secured that it could be finished. And this is such good news. Thank you, Sergei, for that positive update. It's lovely to also get positive news from Ukraine. Now, the next question will get a little bit political, but just literally on one single statement, and I'll leave it to that. During his presidential candidature, Trump announced to end the war in Ukraine within 24 hours. Well, the war hasn't stopped yet. I wish he would have been right on his wish or claim he had made. But the reason why I'm putting that to begin with is that there's also been a bit more subtle political efforts in, debates about how to rebuild Ukraine and how to help in the situation. Now, Sergey, can you elaborate or share with us who from the international community is actually involved in rebuilding efforts in Ukraine, and how is it going? Like, how much is it considered that ecological hemp or building materials, including hemp, are actually going to be used for this rebuilding effort? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, considering the American president's claim that he's going to stop, I hope he will help us stop this madness, because the resilience and the courage of Ukrainian people is definitely not enough when you're being outnumbered, when you're being outgunned. This is just, we're talking about preserving our nation. So any efforts from the international community that can help us stop, not today, tomorrow, maybe in a week or maybe in a month, it's better than nothing. So we need that assistance, because it's just ridiculous from any point you look at it. It's a massacre. And I have attended a Rebuild Ukraine conference, and I spoke at one in Canada a year ago. Last fall, I visited also the Warsaw Rebuild Ukraine conference, where we saw positive signs of instruments being developed by Ukrainian government and international insurance companies, now protecting foreign investments if they decide to go in and invest into rebuilding infrastructure projects in Ukraine. Up until this point, there hasn't been any instruments, according to foreign companies that want to move in and want to execute and want to help Ukrainian nation get back on track, because we've been thrown back, I don't know, decades, with this war, from the infrastructure point of view, from energy point of view. So now these instruments are being developed, and the international community is ready to move into Ukraine, as long as their efforts are protected. And now there is it's a very complicated dialogue between the investors and Ukrainian government, right? How far can each one of these parties go when the rocket hits the building or the factory that's been newly built, or that territory is going to get captured, because strictly that factory had to be built close to specific resources or mine of some different types, right, of minerals. So it's a very tough question, and we saw a positive movement I've heard positive feedback from the investment community in the Warsaw. That's as much as I can comment on that. Companies want to move in to Ukraine, but there is a certain level of fear, right? When you came and visited us, and thank you so much, by the way, I appreciate your courage and bravery to come in and making a film about our efforts and what do we do there. You had mixed feelings before coming to Ukraine, right?
Yes.
It's a country where everything's fine today, but the drone might hit the building or the hotel where you're staying tomorrow, and you never there is no guarantee. This is exactly what the company is afraid of, the foreign companies, right? So from what I understood, they will probably divide the country in 3 different sections, like a green zone, yellow zone, and red zone, depending on the how close the projects will be to the front lines. And of course, they need some different instruments from the foreign banking and insurance institutions, along with the Ukrainian government, to help them out. But the efforts are being made towards fruitful collaboration.
Wow, that's really interesting to hear, and raises a lot of question on my end, of course, if you do a separation into different zones, because we all know that war in Ukraine is a very different war than, when you're talking a set front line. Obviously, the drones can come anywhere, the planes can go anywhere, so it's but I guess that's not to us to answer these things. But thank you, Sergey, for that update. And now, before we move into the 20-minute short documentary film that you just mentioned, where, let me just say that Also, a huge thank you to you, Sergey, because you were the one to encourage me during an interview that we had in, I think it was very early in 2023 on phone. And you asked me one question that literally left me pondering for half a year and then eventually made me come to Ukraine. You said, how can it be that us, the Ukrainians, a country at war, can build with 100% ecological building material, and you, not pointing fingers, but basically the global north or the rest of the world which is at peace, why can't you do it too? It should be so much easier to get that done when you're at peace. And that was a question that really, may I say, uprooted me mentally to the point where I said, okay, I need to report on that story because you've really had your point. And at least with me, that hammered home extremely well. And I wish and hope that all of our audience and listeners, inshallah, there may be hopefully a lot of policymakers, a lot of politicians that will somehow come across this podcast and do their parts to change policy and lawmaking to make that more easy to bring hemp building materials back onto the, architects' let's say plate, because oftentimes it is very complicated for home builders and architects to use materials that are not completely classified or certified. And so, yeah, thank you to you, Sergey, for doing that. And again, I do want to ask you a very, very personal question because it came up between us over the years, actually again and again. Where are you now? And why is it not always easy for you to share that information with your community?
Well, I'm constantly on the move, and right now we're doing a lot of educational. I'm participating in many different events. We're also organizing different workshops and conferences. So, for example, last month I was in Thailand. I was invited by the Thai Industrial Hemp Trade Association to speak at this massive hemp and cannabis conference. And after that, I flew into Buriram province along with the organizing committee. And then we educated children from the local school on how to build with
Wow.
hemp and lime. And they prepared the samples with bamboo. And now I'm in Indonesia. And we are working towards getting the first projects executed with the combination of bamboo and hemp lime. I don't see the reason
Fantastic.
why people have to chop down trees that are 50, 60, 70, 100 years old, where bamboo grows just in a few years' time. And if you treat it properly, it's an ideal structural material and an ideal resource for erecting low-rise residential homes. So this is what like we're currently working on. And then
Fantastic.
yes. We are just kind of promoting these systems in Southeast Asia where mold is a big issue. Moldy houses, they are everywhere in southern states of USA, in Southeast Asia, Southern Europe, when the humidity climbs high and it's just taking over the homes, and it's so detrimental to people's health. And it's good that you kind of brought up the subject of the well-being and health, because this is the most important subject and it's constantly overlooked when people are choosing certain materials over the other. And I think architects should be held accountable when they're choosing toxic materials that are actually ruining people's health, when they designing houses using toxic materials. And yes, they're certified, everything's fine, but then in the end people suffer. Children have all kinds of allergies, people are fatigued, they're tired constantly, they have all kinds of health diseases, respiratory dysfunctions, and no one's talking about it. It's a massive red flag for me. People should be overlooking this whole thing, and that's like the people that are certifying these materials, people that are including them in the homes. I'm talking about the government officials, the certification authorities, as well as the entities that write up standards, and architects that are using these materials. They should be held accountable for all the kind of health issues that people have in the, because here in Indonesia, every house is a temple. They have a temple in the backyard of every house traditionally. That's how people in the Western world should be treating their homes. It's a temple where you come home to recover and rest. And in the end, it's the building that's poisoning you and your children. So somewhere we kind of went off track with this whole efficiency and energy
Mm.
efficiency concept, where we're just starting to ruin people's lives. And
Yeah.
materials should never be, it's like choosing a car. You never choose a car only by looking at the how fast it goes. There are so many different parameters. The same goes for construction and installation materials. It's not only about thermal performance, which is
Yeah.
exceptional for hemp-lime, by the way. It's exceptional. But there are many other parameters. And we should be always looking at the picture overall, how this material will act in 50, 60 years. We have a data that's showing us that in
Mm.
25 years, the difference of thermal performance of this material will be less than 1%. We have done that testing, longevity testing in Ukraine.
Mm.
And for me, it's a no-brainer. And I'm constantly moving around the world to promote it. So that's why it's sometimes it's hard to disclose my location, because today I'm
Mm.
here. In a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to be in Australia, and then I'm going to be in USA. There is a
Yeah.
possibility of me coming to Kenya. So when people ask me where are you, I'm like,
Wow.
I'm I'm global. So it's
Yeah.
important for me to push this. It's important for me to push this technology forward along with other bio-based materials. I never want to criticize light clay straw construction, straw bale homes, reed straw panels, anything that involves bio-based materials where the reduction of carbon is in place. I'm a big fan of this type of materials, the ones that do not harm people and are durable enough to withstand different climate fluctuations. That's basically what I'm doing right now.
That is fantastic. And Sergey, yes, I can relate to that. To the outside world, traveling always looks like the bliss, the fantastic, successful life that someone can live if they can. But oftentimes it's forgotten that sacrificing your personal life pretty much for the means of being on the road and doing educational efforts can also mean that you're. I mean, where do you live? You constantly are on the move. Not just the name of this podcast, but it also means to sacrifice your comfort zone, oftentimes entirely, because you don't know where you're going to sleep the next night or how comfortable it's going to be or if your personal needs are being met. And I just want to give or pull my chapeau to you. Thank you for doing the work that you do. Thank you for continuing this. I don't know if I should call it struggle or a journey. It's maybe a bit of both, for the sake of humanity becoming safer homes, more healthy homes, and as you said, and I really like that picture you painted, temples for all of us. That's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your kind words. But I just, on my behalf, I want to say thank you for what you do. And I want to say thank you for all the people all the brave Ukrainian men and women
Yes.
and the international community that are helping defend our beautiful country from this vicious act of aggression. So for me, traveling around the world, it's nothing like to the soldiers that are like sleeping
Yeah.
today, as of today in January in the dungeons at negative temperatures. And so I really, I want to emphasize how important their efforts
Yeah.
are. And we'll try to help them, all of them. And I just hope that each one of us will stay healthy. And I never forget to be grateful for what I have in my life today, because you never know what's
Mm.
going to happen tomorrow. It's like a rocket hitting the building where we were renting an office for Hempire in a city center in Kiev. It's a residential complex, and people died that morning. None of our
Yeah.
employees were harmed. It was 2nd of January, exactly a year ago,
Mm. Yeah.
but it was like early in the morning, and thank God there was no one in the office.
Mm.
And you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. So we're just doing what we can. I'm trying to help as much as possible to support our people, and financially, and being vocal about what's happening, and of course trying to bring all kinds of hemp-based technologies to Ukraine. We have found Ukrainian Hemp Building Association last year. We're going to be organizing a massive international conference. We will make an announcement hopefully soon on the date of this event, and I'm looking forward to invite as many people as possible to see how we're doing it in Ukraine, how we're building our country. We have ongoing projects right now, hemp building projects as we speak, and we just want to share it with the international community how we're doing it. And as you rightly said, if we're doing it during the war, that means the rest of the world can do it during peaceful times.
Thank you, Sergey. There is nothing to add from my side, but to wish Ukraine peace and a lot of success in the rebuilding, and a lot of success in your projects. And I can't wait to follow your path. It's always amazing to see what you're off to next. And thank you so much for being here today with us and sharing your story. And I would say now we'll let our audience see the film. It's another 20 minutes, and I thank everyone for the attention and for being here and for taking the time to watch our conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Globally, wars and natural disaster displace millions of people continuously, destroying their homes and leaving behind astronomical figures of toxic waste. Already we're feeling the detrimental effects of our heavy industries on our climate, natural ecosystems, and all living beings. Our growing awareness creates a heightened concern about a rapid transformation of our most polluting industries to align quickly with the global sustainable development goals. In the face of war, Ukrainians have found a solution that builds up on their long tradition of cultivating industrial hemp.
Hello, Maren.
Finally, how are you?
I'm meeting Ukrainian Sergyi Kovalenkov, international speaker and founder of Hempire, a company building with ecological hemp building materials. Can we take the SDGs into consideration in our global rebuilding efforts? So Sergey, what do you think when you see this U.S. rebuilding film? What's going through your head?
Well, definitely we will need the heavy industries input into rebuilding Ukraine, because we have thousands and thousands of buildings destroyed. Obviously, we will need that, but at the same time, I understand and clearly have a vision on rebuilding Ukraine with sustainable local materials.
I embarked to Ukraine in the middle of the war and meet Hanna, my local production partner on the ground, in August 2023. We're on our way to Kiev to meet Sergei Boyko, business partner of Sergyi Kovalenkov at Hempire. A personal conviction of Sergei Boyko has long been to build a dome-shaped house for his entire family of 7. Hello, hello. Hello. Thank you. This is amazing. It's like a paradise of hemp domes. But I'm impressed. My colleague Hanna is taken on a tour of the organic-shaped labyrinth of the house. We begin to understand why the hemp dome invention of Sergei Boyko and Sergyi Kovalenkov quickly became a trend for the ecological home builders not only in Ukraine. The hemp material's shape and functionality are matching up into a harmonious Gesamtwerk.
The dome shape structures is extremely energy efficient, and because there are no 90-degree angle between, there are no dead spots between the walls and the roofs, so it's all curved. Extremely energy efficient building. There are no 90-degree angles in nature. Nature is beautiful because it's all curved and shaped in a very interesting, unique texture. And don't forget about structural capabilities of such house, because all the truss system elements, they work together to resist any type of load. Either it's a snow load, it's a wind load, so it is an extremely structurally sound building. It's a cozy and comfortable environment to be in. We organized a workshop in one of the private schools in Kiev for kids, and 7-8-year-old kids, they came up to me during the process and they asked me, like, does this mean I can build my own house? And I'm saying that's exactly the point. That's exactly the point, because I want them to think outside the box. I want them to realize that they can be doing it with their own hands. We're creating new neuropaths in their brain, understanding that they're able to do it.
Once Sergei Boyko mastered to build a prototype of the dome, he started looking for non-petrochemical materials. This is how he met Sergei Kovalenkov, who had been promoting natural hemp-based building materials for years. Fascinated by the possibility to build with ecological materials, he joined Hempire as a partner in 2018 and built another 2 hemp-lime domes to add to the ensemble.
The health aspect is crucial, because we're in home for us. It's a place where we recover. It's a place of our strength, right? And building a place where you're planning to recover out of toxic materials, it's kind of counterintuitive, right? So it has to be strictly natural materials.
Next, our path leads to Irpin and Bucha. Both cities became site to some of the most atrocious war crimes against humanity, when the Russian aggressors tried to seize the country's capital in the beginning of the war.
On the 24th of February 2022, I woke up to the loud bang. That's when the air defense system shut down the rocket, and it hit a residential building maybe 5 minutes away from my house. The windows shook, and we started to hear explosions on the horizon, like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. It was pretty scary, because people always try to hold on to their memories and the past life, and that's when you kind of hoping that tomorrow you're going to wake up and life will be normal again like before. But that is just getting worse and worse.
Next, we're meeting with Taras Vyasovchenko, who is a deputy of the Irpin City Council for Reconstruction.
Good morning. The fire is one thing, and then the microplastic that go everywhere is another problem.
This not for fire.
Is this a natural building material?
No. It's the basalt.
Basalt. Okay, so
basalt.
it's rock wool.
Basalt.
Mm-hmm.
My basalt.
Okay.
And
Currently, we refer to traditional building materials when we speak about polystyrene, cement, concrete, steel, fiberglass, mineral wool, styrofoam, and synthetic fibers. Most come from petrochemical sources and are very energy intensive to produce.
We have a limited amount of time to create this environment, because a lot of people lost their homes. A lot of people lost their family members, a lot of people lost their businesses. The whole nation is suffering, and rebuilding Ukraine with toxic materials, it's criminal in my vision.
Our current traditional materials have a problem. The raw materials they are made of are finite. Sand, minerals, and coal are not renewable at the speed of our consumption. With our growing need to house humanity, the building industry is one to continue growing, and we urgently need to find renewable and ecological materials for replacement.
Hempcrete technology touches upon three major aspects of our life. It has an economic impact, it has a social impact, and it has an ecological impact.
The war triggered a massive shock to the global energy markets, pushing up prices of building materials to unprecedented levels, especially in Ukraine.
Before the war, the hemp house would be 10 to 15% more expensive than the house built out of aerated concrete blocks insulated by rock wool. And the prices have been evening out.
We're driving to the west of Ukraine, to Morshin, where Evgeny Moisev, an IT professional and refugee, saved 170 people from the eastern war zone. Under his supervision, the refugee community rebuilt an old farm, the Girlfriend's Farm, to become a residential rehabilitation center.
That's how our ancestors used to build before. They would gather together 20, 30 people, and they would build up a house in a week or two. We're just showing people that not necessarily you have to hire an extremely expensive contractor to execute this job. Anyone can learn how to do it within days and can really help you.
Immersing in meaningful work in the peaceful environment of the farm will yield into labor therapy for the thousands of soldiers who will return with PTSD from the war. This will help them recover and also create new jobs. Meanwhile, the refugees Oleg and Nina are living on the farm, guarding the animals and waiting for more funding to finish the residential rehabilitation complex. Hempire decided to sponsor the hemp chives, binder and other needed building materials for the Girlfriend's Farm. This lighthouse project shows the advantages for recovery of soldiers through the benefits deriving from hemp-lime.
The most important one is regulation of humidity. Number 2, energy efficiency. It's pest resistant. It's a fire resistant material. It's a mold resistant material. It blocks EMF, electromagnetic fields, and it's carbon negative. When you assess everything all together, the rule of thumb is that 1 cubic meter of hemp-lime, hempcrete, is able to sequester 100 kilograms of CO2. It's like a Maserati in the world of construction and insulation. It's a high-end product with all the advantages I've just listed. It's a beautiful story where people losing their homes due to the war are able to use local sustainable materials to restart their lives.
In 2015, the United Nations established the Sustainable Development Goals to reach carbon neutrality across industries in an effort to create a more just and peaceful planet. The global hemp industries are already addressing 9 out of the 17 goals and could help to turn one of the largest carbon emitters, the construction industry, into an absorber. Simply by using hemp-based materials, which are long-lasting, energy-efficient, and carbon-negative, we could create a significant change.
Most of the carbon sequestration happens underground, in the root system. Farmers that grew hemp measured the amount of carbon in the soil in the beginning before the seeds were put into the ground and after the harvest. So the number that they have received altogether with the biomass and evaluation of the soil samples was 100 tons of CO2 per hectare. 99 point something, to be honest. So it completely changes the narrative regarding the carbon sequestration of hemp.
Our last stop is the high-tech hemp cluster of Ukrainian hemp in Cherkasy, founded by a father and son duo. Father, Yuri Marshuk, and manager of the plant, welcomes us.
Hemp bales. Here we go. We're right in it.
Most Ukrainian men are at war, defending their country. The daily operations to keep the country running are done by those left at home. The pilot factory near Kiev got destroyed during the first days of war. 4 months later, the Marshuks built a new facility in the middle of the country to continue the business.
That looks pretty good.
We found that in cellulose, the hemp, it's a monster. 1 hectare of hemp, it's 4 hectares of forest. Why this hemp coming on the table? Because we predicted the huge shortages of wood cellulose. Just 30% of plastic production will move to the paper. We will lose our forests in about 5 years.
Establishing the processing line in close vicinity to the hemp fields secures economic and ecological viability. To produce in a more sustainable way, the plant biomass cannot be transported more than 100 kilometers to the factory. A new medium-size hemp processing machine was developed, the HempMax 1000. It can process between 1 to 1.5 tons per hour. It outputs 3 core elements: sheaves, fiber, and dust, which are used in the construction, textile, paper, and automotive industries. The machine blends the traditional hemp processing technique with modern technology. The result is an easy-to-use, reliable machine in a medium size for smaller plants. The compact transport, setup, and price, as well as its easy maintenance, made it possible to start Ukrainian hemp in the middle of the ongoing war.
The advantage in Ukraine is, of course, in the scale. Yeah, we were the biggest country in Europe, and second biggest if you count Russia in. And of course, we have big surfaces where we can plant, which is you cannot compete with in Europe or in Western European countries. But the disadvantage that we have is that we are not used to the European market. We have little regulations that are conform. We have little standards. So this is to be discovered, to be aligned. So this is what we're trying to do.
Ukrainian hemp has already started to supply one of Europe's biggest paper food packaging companies, located in Germany, with the raw material from hemp cellulose. The network for the high-tech hemp cluster is already forming. Days after the production has started, a meeting of Yuri Lysenko, operator of the destroyed pilot plant, and Hempire's Sergyi Boyko is manifesting the new hemp network. All have one goal in mind: to use hemp to help their country recover in a sustainable way.
Just needed one question.
We need help from overseas. We have to be strict on how the funding is allocated, making sure that we're not in a debt that our grandchildren are paying back for all the terrible housing that is going to be erected in the next 10 years. We can rebuild Ukraine with our own natural sustainable materials. Technology is out there. We've been doing it for years. We know how to scale up. We need all that force, from the human resource, from the funding, in order to implement it in the quickest fashion. Hemp is definitely a huge part of the solution.